Hello friends, welcome to my review of Liverpool against Everton. The game ended 2-0, but we're going to be going a little bit deeper and going through some of the major talking points that surrounded this game. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it with a like and subscribe if you haven't for more content like this coming very soon. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well, you don't want to miss what's coming up in the near future. And now let's talk Liverpool beating Everton by 2-0. When we went into this game, Liverpool were down in the dumps, they were nearly out. Everton were on the rise, and I can safely say that those two things have swapped over because that game was something else. Liverpool really came out with a fire, really came out with an intensity, whereas Everton were quite limp and quite poor and quite lackadaisical with nearly everything they did. Liverpool, don't get me wrong, were absolutely sensational, but they were buoyed and helped by the fact that Everton really just didn't come into the game. We can have a look at the attacking momentum bar, and as we can see, Liverpool are at home and they really started to dominate the game in the second half. They didn't create all too much, but it was the pressure they were starting to build up. They were managing to get attack and waves of attacks going, and that's where Everton really started to capitulate. They started to give the ball away and they failed to find Ellis Sims. We can now have a look at the attacking momentum that Everton managed to get. This was actually a corner that Liverpool's goal came from. And really, it was something that Everton have conceded for the entire season, so I suppose we could take that into consideration. But the way that they didn't score, which was extremely unfortunate, and just to concede off the back of that must have been heart-wrenching. They then go into half-time after keeping the game at 1-0, and I thought they actually did quite good. It was 1-0 to Liverpool. Everything was fine. Everything was all right. And then they come out. I'm sure Sean Dyche said something to Everton. And then they came out. They started to have a go, started to fight, and then they get sucker punched again. It was very unfortunate. That being said, Liverpool fully deserved this because they were sensational. I'm not going to say it was the Liverpool of old because I really don't think it was. I think they've played much better a couple of years ago or even last year. But it's definitely signs in the right direction. Absolutely. This is way closer to any kind of Liverpool side that we've seen over the last 3 years than we've seen in the last 3 months, I'd say. This entirety of this year. Finally, they've got a performance and a team on the pitch that's managed to put in a good run and a good show, and that is something to behold. I'm still not too sure about the two centre-backs. They seem a little bit suspect for me, especially Joel Matip. He seems devoid of confidence. Having said that, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson looked seriously back. And I mean Alexander-Arnold being free on this right-hand side, Andy Robertson bombing up and down this left-hand side, making sure he was both defensively sound and offensively always an option. Mohamed Salah got his goal. He was bound to get one eventually, and Darwin Núñez looked one of the most threatening times I've ever seen him, to be honest. Cody Gakpo managed to drop into that Roberto Firmino role, help out Fabinho, but at the same time managed to link play with Núñez and with Salah. All signs pointing good. Jordan Henderson managed to rotate with Fabinho and Stefan Bajcetic whenever they needed to. Bajcetic, I found, sometimes popped up on the right, sometimes popped up in the centre. He was absolutely everywhere, but most of the time he was on this left-hand side, helping out Andy Robertson whenever he managed to go forwards. He would just slot into this role and make sure that he was able to cut out everything. Defensively, he's a very good player, and he's also got an eye for a pass. He's a very, very good player. The stats don't really back it up, but seriously, trust me, if you know the eye test and you know about it, he's got some quality. He really does. We then have a look at Cody Gakpo, who I thought that had a very, very good game. Trent Alexander-Arnold's cross through the box to find his tap-in. Yes, Cody should have dealt with it. We'll get to that in just a moment, but he needed to be in the right place at the right time, and that's exactly what it was. That'll be a weight off his shoulders, and now he can start to play. He looked far more comfortable in this middle role rather than being out on the left-hand side, first of all. Second of all, he was starting to link play, which I think I was really impressed by. He managed to find Mo Salah on a certain couple of occasions, and he managed to find Darwin Núñez. He's seeming to fit into this Liverpool team a little bit better, and that should be very scary for any opposition looking at this. Let's transition over to Everton, because I think quite a lot needs to be said about this. Everton, where do you start? Where do you start? First of all, their passing accuracy was nigh on horrendous. These scores are quite kind, in my opinion. The problem that Everton had today was in contrast to what they did against Arsenal. When they played Arsenal, yes, they were defensively sound. Yes, they were struggling to, or Arsenal was struggling to really create anything, and that was down to Onana and Doucouré in these channels. But when they went forwards and managed to kick the ball long to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is finished, by the way. I mean, he is absolutely done. If he cannot make it through a singular game and then get injured, it's just not going to work as a full-time professional footballer. He's injured far too much. But I digress. When they got the ball up to Ellis Sims, who managed to win a lot of his duels, there was no one there to really help him. Doucouré and Onana failed to really drive up next to him. Iwobi and McNeil were far too wide to help the likes of Ellis Sims, and it all became a little bit isolating for the young lad, who, like I said, won most of his duels. When they managed to go forwards, it was never with any potency. There was never any drive forwards, and there was never any option. Doucouré and Onana never really gave a blindside run, and I'm sure that was because they were extremely concerned about the counter-attack. I'm sure it was because they didn't want to leave any space. I'm sure that's because they wanted to keep it close. But the moment that they concede that first goal, everything changes. The moment Mo Salah makes that goal and gets it in the net, everything changes, and they need to start going forwards, and they failed to do that. Onana and Doucouré just weren't there offensively, and then it was left to Idrissa Gueye to really just shuffle the ball across, and that lost Everton nearly all of their potency. Iwobi and McNeil tried to cross the ball on a couple of occasions, but even then they were snuffed out. There wasn't enough energy in the Everton team to really make a driving run, and I was extremely surprised to see these three extremely physical, extremely bossy midfielders be outrun and outworked by this Liverpool trio who have seriously struggled all season with this exact issue. It was baffling to me. Conor Coady has had a nightmare of a game. Yes, his passing accuracy was pretty terrible, and he didn't really get into the game either. Tarkowski, I can label that in as well. The only thing that Tarkowski has is that he wasn't majorly culpable for the second goal. Seamus Coleman, we all know that Seamus Coleman's past his prime. We all know that he probably should retire. We all know, but Patterson is injured and he's doing a job, so I can't say too much about that. Mikolenko on this left-hand side I thought was okay with Mo Salah. His passing accuracy again was pretty poor, and that's pretty much the major issue that I have with this, is that Everton's passing was horrendous. Just awful. Their passing accuracy was terrible, and that's partially down to Liverpool really putting some pressure on, and they're making sure they're in the correct position to really make interceptions. But it's also on Everton. You need to make yourself available, and at the same time you need to have the presence of mind and the bravery to make penetrating passes through midfield and into the striker. That didn't happen. Let's move on and have a look at some of the stats now, because I've really said all I need to. We can have a look at the expected goals. 2.19 for Liverpool, 0.28 for Everton. That was mainly down to, I assume, the header from the cross before the Liverpool goal. 59% possession, 41% for Everton. Pretty poor, but again, you'd expect that at Anfield. Liverpool were sensational. 15 shots, 6 on target. It was not a prime Liverpool performance, but a prime in the sense that they're back to really what made them good, and that's high energy, high tempo, and quality when it comes to the final third. Everton were none of these, unfortunately. Again, it was a free hit for them, so I'm not going to go too hard on them, but it was night and day with the performance that they had against Arsenal. It really was. It was just not good at all. We can now have a look at the accurate passing. You'll see what I mean with the passing accuracy. Liverpool had 87% passing accuracy. 79 is not good enough. I'm sorry, it's just not. In a Premier League match against your bitter rivals, Merseyside derby, high energy, high tempo, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be hard. 79% pass accuracy is not good enough, I'm sorry. For a team that needs to be in the division and needs to be staying there, it's just not enough. We can have a look at this now and see that the duels won were all Liverpool's. I mean, they won 11 more duels than Everton, and that just speaks the game, really. They were up for every challenge more. There were no second balls won by Everton. There was no real grit or determination from the rest of the team to really make sure that they were able to get transitions. There was no transitional play whatsoever. There was no counter-attack, which meant that Everton needed to have a slow build-up. Whenever they had a slow build-up, Liverpool were able to get back into shape, make sure they were able to cut off the midfield, and then it was fine. And then they had their own transition. Everton were absolutely killed by the counter-attack through the likes of Mo Salah and Darwin Núñez. They were absolutely killed. And then the likes of James Tarkowski and Conor Coady just didn't have the pace to be able to deal with it. In the end, is this too big of a deal for Everton? No, they'll get over it. However, I think the moment was there for Everton to really give it to Liverpool. They were down. They were in pain. They needed some kind of reassurance. They needed some kind of revitalization, and they didn't know where to turn to get it. Turn up Everton, and they gave them pretty much the easiest game they're going to get. It wasn't a Brentford that was really going to be extremely physical with them. It wasn't a Brighton that's going to play them off the park. Everton just turned up and pretty much did nothing. And I think that's what will disappoint Sean Dyche. It will disappoint the players themselves, and it will also disappoint the fans who went to the game and who also watched it on television, because Everton, unfortunately, in massive contrast to the game against Arsenal, didn't turn up. Liverpool, however, did, and need to be extremely happy with the way that they played and the way they've set a performance out. But they've now set a benchmark for the Liverpool of this year, and they need to step up again and make sure they continue these performances with consistency. Their next couple of games against Newcastle and against Leeds for Everton are going to be absolutely crucial. And then we can decide whether this result is a major impact, has a major impact on the season. The game ended Liverpool 2, Everton 0. It was a very good game. Just would have liked if Everton would have turned up to make it a bit of a better game. That being said, Liverpool turned up, and they thoroughly deserved the win. That's it for today, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave the video with a like and subscribe if you haven't for more content like this coming very soon. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. You don't want to miss what's coming up in the near future. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on the game itself. Are you a Liverpool fan or are you an Everton fan? And if so, how did you find the game? If you're a neutral, what did you think watching the match? Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. But like I said, that's it from me for today. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care of yourselves and bye-bye.